Shalom. In part two, we're going to be discussing Russia, the bear, because Russia has a major role to play in the prophecy of the end and the destruction of Babylon the Great, which is America, and also the land of Israel. So let's get into it.
Barakatah Yahweh.
Barakatah Yahweh.
Barakatah Yahweh Shai.
Barakatah Yahweh Shai.
All right, now in the lesson that we're doing, chronological events and prophecy, end of Esau's age, beginning of Yahweh Shai's kingdom. This is part two. Now part two is Russia the bear. All right, because Russia the bear has a big part to play in the end of Esau's age. You know, because even though they're Edomites, the Lord is going to use them to destroy these other Edomites, which is mainly here in America and down there in the land of Israel, and certain other parts that are going to get hit by missiles. You know, but let's go real quick to our Revelation 13 and the first two verses, Revelation 13, 1 and 2. Because you have to remember that the Lord gave a chronology. You know, He gave a time period. He gave beginnings of things, and He gave midst of things, and He gave the ending of things. Did not He tell Solomon, I have shown you the beginning, the end, and the midst of time? He did the same to Moses. You know, He did the same to other apostles and prophets and teachers. You know, He showed them all the things that were going to transpire from the beginning all the way up until the end.
Right. If I may say real quick, that's what Esau get. You know, Esau got this thing called timeline. They get that from the scriptures, from the Most High. Whereas you have a time, they'll break it up sometimes BC. You know, the historical things that happened before Christ, and AD, the things that happened leading up into the present time, which those are all ages, points in time, events in time. But Esau get that from the Most High because the Lord set up the kingdoms in that manner and set up the prophecies for a certain amount of time. That's why Habakkuk, he told Habakkuk that it is for an appointed time.
That's right.
You know, he said, write it down in a book, make it plain. You know, for the vision is for an appointed time. So everything is broken up in a chronological order. So again, this brother came up with this question. It's a good question.
Yep.
The elder, through the Spirit, put things together, and this is good, man. It's bringing it out. But you said Romans 13, Revelations 13,
1 and 2.
Okay, Revelations chapter 13, verse 1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy.
Right. So now this beast represents NATO. No, it represents the Roman. Well, the dragon represents the Roman Empire, but the beast represents NATO, and all those different countries and nations in there. They all working together even to this very day, which is UN, which is the NATO. You know, and all those different European countries, including America.
Yep.
You know. So go ahead.
It says, Salaki, it says, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his head the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was likened to a leopard.
Right, so now the whole beast, the first part of the beast was what? It was like unto a leopard. Who did that represent? That represented Alexander the Creep. Now why did it mention him first? Because the Greeks were the first empire of Esau to rule on the planet. All right, so that was the beginning of Esau's empire. That's why they say civilization began with the Greeks.
Yeah.
Not civilization as a whole, because you had other civilizations before them. It's talking about the civilization of the so-called white man. Just like when you go up in time, the Renaissance was what? The rebirth. Not the rebirth of an empire or the rebirth of the world. It was the rebirth of Esau coming back into power. You know, so it began with the Greeks. You know, if you got anything to add, brother, you know, feel free.
No, that's like the brother said. That was the beginning of the so-called white man's rulership back then. That was the beginning of that era, that age. All right, which you had, you know, then after the Greeks were in power, then the Romans came in power. You know, then eventually Jake came in power, established the Holy Roman Empire to where you get to the Arabs during the Dark Ages. We're going back and forth with Jake, and Jake's going against Jake's, all the way up into the rebirth, the Renaissance of the Roman Empire, the so-called white man, which is Esau according to the Bible. All right, and that's why, and see, in the scholars, they all know that. That's why they say they always look to who's going to be the next ruler, because they start seeing the society collapsing. But the signs are all there. Everybody knows that America's collapsing right now. Everybody knows that. Okay, they say, oh, this is going to be the worst this, the worst that. This is a record low. It's going to be a stock market crash. The government's going to shut down. All these rumors and everything are floating around. So people always often say, oh, well, who's going to be the next rulers? The Japanese, the Chinese. Look at their advance with technology. Yep. But you're all wrong. The next rulers are going to be the nation of Israel, the elect of the nation of Israel, underneath the Lord, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai.
That's right.
And that's going to be an everlasting kingdom. That's why in Isaiah 47 it says it's going to be Israel should be saved in the Lord. It should be an everlasting
kingdom
world without end.
Yep.
That's going to be an era, that's an age that's going to last forever. Not like the so-called white man's ages or his rulership, which the Most High only gave to him for a season.
That's right.
That's what we're reading about now. The beginning of it with the Greeks, which represent the leopard, as the elder has said.
That's right.
Right?
Go ahead.
It says, "And his feet were as the feet of a bear."
Right. Now the bear represents what? Represents Russia. Now it says the feet as the feet of a bear. Why? Because the feet represents the end. It started with the head. Now it ended with the feet. Why? Because the feet represents the end of this age, or the end of this rulership, or the end of this empire. Now the Russians are going to be the ones that's going to end Esau's rulership, even though they're Edomites themselves, because the Lord already set it up in prophecy where they're going to be the main ones that's going to shoot the missiles that they have on America and on Israel, on the land of Israel. And that's going to bring this devil to the brink of extinction, basically, as far as his empire is concerned. Then after that, he's going to have nothing. Then begins the fun part, you know, and in the Lord's will, we'll get into it in the later parts to this lesson. Go ahead.
Right. It says, "And his mouth as the mouth of a lion."
Right, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. The lion represents, or the mouth of the lion represents the British, you know, England, because that was the main hub where everything really started from, as far as this time is concerned. Because the American Empire started through what? Through the British. You know, and they're the ones that set them up, and they never stopped ruling over America.
Right.
You know, they just went underground financially.
Yeah, and if I may add on to what the elder's saying, because really in British, that's really the real power seat.
That's right.
I mean, America's just smoking images.
Yep.
It's a front. You know what I'm saying? Really, the one who could call the shots, who pull the strings, it comes from over there in Britain. And matter of fact, the elites, the top of the elites that rule the world, the Rothschild family, they have estates in Britain. Not in America. You ain't gonna catch a Rothschild with no estates in America, these United States. But over there in England, in Europe, they got, with Britain in particular, they got estates over there. Because that's where the power seat is held. And just like a lion represents power, because the lion is the king of the jungle, where the power of the so-called white man comes from the Brit over there in Britain. All right, like the elder said, they still control everything over here. All right.
Yep. So read on.
It says, "And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and a great authority."
Right. Now the dragon, it represents who? The Roman Empire. All right. So the dragon is a Roman Empire. The leopard is the Greeks, beginning with Alexander the Greek. The feet, or the Russian, or the bear is the Russians. The lion represents the British, and overall the Roman Empire is back today, you know, as NATO, as the EU, with America as a part of it. You know, that's why this place here, America, is known, basically is spiritually known as the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
Or the last leg of the Roman Empire. All right. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go from there to Ezekiel, the 38th chapter. We're gonna start at the first verse. We're going to read down to the 11th verse, and we're going to skip around a little bit. Now, one thing you have to remember about Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, is like Revelation, the 20th chapter, and certain other chapters in the book. It kind of jumps back and forth in time, you know, different time periods. You know, going back to the time of the Medo-Persian Empire, and then jumping up to today, to the so-called Russians today, which are the modern-day Medes. All right? So go ahead, brother.
Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 1.
And we're not going to get into breaking down every little single detail. We're just going to kind of go through it because, you know, in the interest of time, we just want to hit certain major points, you know, for this particular lesson. So go ahead, brother.
Done. Ezekiel 38 and 1. "And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog."
Right, which the land of Magog is Russia today. All right, go ahead.
"The chief prince of Meshech and Tubal."
And that's down in Turkey, in the area of Turkey. Go ahead.
"And prophesy against him, and say, Thus saith the Lord power, Behold, I am against thee, O God, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws.
Why? Because right now it's seeming like Russia and America are kind of like friends again. You know, they talking about getting rid of certain chemical weapons and certain other things. You know, it seems like they kind of coming together, almost like allies. You know, but the Lord said He's gonna put hooks into their jaws because He's gonna turn Russia back to their old ways. You know, and He's not gonna allow these devils to make any treaties or agreement because the Lord, that's not in the Lord's purpose. That's not in the Lord's interest. It's not in the Lord's prophecies. Okay.
And I will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even as a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords.
Right, and then when you look at the Russian army is vast. You see how big Russia is, even though it's broken up. They have a great big army, and those Russians are strong, man. You know, and all they think about, think, drink, and breathe is war. You know, and these American faggots, they can't deal with the Russians, man. You know, one-to-one combat. One Russian will probably take out like 10, 12 American troops, man.
Yep.
Because the Lord made them strong. Why? Because this is the country or the Edomite nation that the Lord is going to use to destroy this place. So He got to make them hard. Go ahead.
Persia,
which is Iran.
Ethiopia,
which is Ethiopia. Go ahead.
And Libya,
which is in North Africa.
With them.
Go ahead.
It says all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all his bands.
Which is up in the land of Turkey also. Go ahead.
The house of Togarmah.
Yep. Same place. Go ahead.
Of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee.
So you got to remember, it's not just Russia. It's you also have different of these so-called Arab nations that are in league with Russia. And you have even the Chinese today are in league with Russia. But you have a lot of these so-called Islamic nations. They're in league with Russia, Iran, Syria. You know, different other places in that region. They're down with Russia, and if America messes with any of those nations, they got to mess with Russia first. You know, that's why when they first tried to go up in there to drop them bombs, when this guy was talking about doing a preemptive strike or dropping missiles in Syria, Russia had to step in for a moment. Why? That was the Lord. You know, because it wasn't time, or it wasn't time at that moment to actually for these devils to go up into Syria yet.
Yeah.
You know, because the main prophecy is with Iran. So go ahead, brother.
Right, come. It says, be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them.
Right, so Russia, well, Magog is going to be a guard unto these nations. Why? Because America is a superpower. These nations don't have the capability or the army to fight against the American forces. So you have a superpower like Russia that the Lord made a guard unto them to watch over them. Go ahead.
After many days thou shalt be visited. In the latter years thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword, and is gathered out of many people.
That's talking about the land of Israel. Go ahead.
Against the mountains of Israel, which have been always waste, but it is brought forth out of the nations.
Right, because all those nations down there don't belong in that land.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And they shall dwell safely, all of them.
Right, and then eventually when the time comes in the future, when the real Israelites go into that land, they're going to dwell safely. You know, and then when you go back in the history, the Medo-Persian Empire really didn't destroy our forefathers. They basically just set it up to where we were able to keep our customs, our laws, rebuild the temple. You know, so it jumps back and forth in time, as you can see. Go ahead.
Right. It says, thou shalt ascend and come like a storm. Thou shalt be like a cloud to cover the land. Thou and all thy bands and many people with thee.
There you have your Battle of Armageddon, or the Valley of Jehoshaphat.
Yeah.
They're gathering all these troops.
And which is good. It's good to watch, you know, as the elders always bring out these different news, you know, RT news or whatever, Euro news, whatever news you can get, try to get the good ones.
Yep.
Right? Because then you'll see these things happening, and basically Israel's at the point, well, what's his name? Netanyahu. that devil, right? Because he's a devil, that so-called Jew.
Yep.
Basically, any day he's gonna try to flex on Iran.
And they salivate.
And they salivate, and they want to see, and that's the thing. Going back, not to go too far off the subject, but that's the thing. They talking about Syria with their chemical weapons and everything,
Right.
but they don't say nothing about Netanyahu and Israel and their chemical weapons that they got over there trying to bully those Arab nations over there.
And they be dropping those bombs on Arab nations.
In a heartbeat.
Yep.
In a heartbeat. But see, the thing is, they're gonna go in there and fuck around Netanyahu, which he's trying to. Basically, he's saying he already said he's not gonna wait on America to go in there, and then when they go in Iran, then that's when, like we reading, Russia's gonna be a guardian to them.
That's right.
You see, and everybody knows that's why they're leery. You know, else they would have been try to wipe them out, man.
Yeah.
You know,
because they know they don't know for sure if they have these weapons or not, but they know that Russia got their back. So if they go in there to fuck with the Iranians, then the Lord's going to have Russia to step in there, because America's going to be in the interest of who? The land of Israel.
Yep.
So if they know that the Russians know that they have an interest in Iran, and if they go in there, if they fight with Israel, America's going to get involved, and Russia's going to have to be the bodyguard to Iran.
Yep.
To fight against the American troops. And there you got your Armageddon, there you got all these things that will happen. And you got to remember something too, that all these things are going to be happening simultaneously.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we're breaking it up into parts because that's the way the Spirit had us break it up, but it's going to be all happening simultaneously, you know, one after the other, in the midst of everything. So everything's going to happen almost all at once.
Right.
You know?
Right, like the delivery, the destruction and the delivery.
Yep.
It's going to be simultaneous.
That's right.
All right.
All right, so go ahead, read on, brother.
Okay, keep on.
Yep.
All right, it says
To verse 11.
to 11. Okay, it says, thus saith the Lord power, it shall also come to pass that at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought, and thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages.
Right, the land of unwalled villages is America. You know, so the Lord's going to cause something to happen, some type of beef between the Russians and the Americans, to where the Russians are going to have that evil thought in their mind, and they're going to step to America, and then that's what's going to set everything off.
Okay.
You know, what exactly it is, we don't know, but the Lord, when the time comes, we'll know. It'll be evident.
Right. And I may add as a little footnote too, because in the ancient times, cities normally had walls built around them.
That's right.
With watchtowers and garrisons or whatever the case is.
Yep.
You had to enter in the city through the gates.
Yep.
But America, there's nothing that border. It's not set up that way. At the most, you might see a sign. You're now entering into this part of Delaware, or you're now entered into buttfuck Mississippi or wherever.
Yep.
You know, but you don't have no walls built up. So
That's right.
that's how you know that's dealing with America.
Yeah, because them ancient empires, they had walls built around. If you look at them ancient movies, they were trying to go into a particular city. They had to go through they had the big walls and gates, you know, where they couldn't just waltz right up in there. You know, they had to break that wall down before they could actually get into the city. You know, excellent point.
Yep.
Go ahead.
It says, I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates.
And you see, nobody else is dwelling like these devils are dwelling here, man. If you go to Iran or you go to other different countries, they're not at rest, man. Because anytime somebody can get hit in the head with a boulder, or they can get shot, or they can get blown up with an IED, you know, they can get destroyed with a terrorist bomb. So them other nations, they're not at ease like these devils are at ease here in America, you know. So now jump down to verse 17.
Okay.
And read down to the end.
All right, 17. Thus saith the Lord power, art thou he of whom I have spoken in old time by my servants the prophets of Israel, which prophesied in those days many years that I will bring thee against them? And it shall come to pass at the same time, when God shall come against the land of Israel, saith the Lord power, that my fury shall come up in my face. For in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath have I spoken. Surely in that day there shall be a great shaking in the land of Israel.
And what's that great shaking going to be in the land of Israel? Those nuclear missiles. That's what's going to cause that great shaking in the land. That's what's going to totally devastate and destroy that land. Because why? That land right now is defiled. You got homosexuals over there. You got kosher pig. You got all different type of madness that's going on over there. Nude beaches. So the Lord has to totally destroy that place and fry it. And so it could be brought back clean again. Because right now it's filthy. Go ahead.
Right, come. It says, so there should be a great shaking in the land of Israel, so that the fishes of the sea and the fowls of the heaven and the creeping things that creep upon the earth and all the men that are upon the face of the earth shall shake at my presence. And the mountains shall be thrown down, and the steep places shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground. And I will call for a sword against him throughout all my mountains, saith the Lord power. Every man's sword shall be against his brother. And I will plead against him with pestilence and with blood. And I will rain upon him and upon his bands and upon the many people that are with him an overflowing rain and great hailstones, fire and brimstone.
That's talking about those nuclear missiles. Yeah.
Thus will I magnify myself and sanctify myself, and I will be known in the eyes of many nations, and they shall know that I am the Lord.
Right, so now go from there to Isaiah 13th chapter, the 17th and 18th verse. You know, so these are things that's going to be happening. The culmination of these things that's going to be happening in the midst of all the disasters and all the earthquakes and everything that Yahushua said was going to happen. Because didn't he say that these are the beginning of sorrows, you know? But be not troubled. Why? Because it's not time yet. So go ahead, brother.
Isaiah chapter 13, verse 17. Says, behold, I will stir up the Medes against them.
Right, now the Medes are the Russians. Not that the Russians go back to the Medes, because the original Medes go back to Japhet. But the Russians are dwelling in that land right now. That's what they're known as the Medes, because they're dwelling in the land of the Medes. So it says, behold, I will stir up the Medes against them. Why? Because the Lord right now, like we were saying, it seems like they're kind of docile, like they're cool with America, but the Lord is going to cause that evil thought to come into their mind where he's going to stir up the Russians against America somehow, some way, so that they can actually get this thing popping. Okay?
That's right. It says, behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it.
Right, because when you go back to America, America goes into all these different nations, and the top leadership of those nations, they pay off with money, with gold, silver, whatever it is that they have, that they want, so that they can be on America's side. But these Russians, they're not going to go for that. They're not going to regard any money or nothing like that. Right, because it's going to be a personal thing. Why? Because the Spirit of the Lord is going to be upon them to do this thing.
And Russia's been bitter towards the United States for a long time.
That's right.
They ain't forgot about all the Cold War and all that stuff.
That's right.
How they basically they fucked up their country.
Yep.
You know? That's why you got a lot of poverty in Russia and everything like that, you know? So they ain't forgot about that. How you went up in there, you set up your satellites, you went and took over parts of their land, occupied it, broke it up into the USSR or whatever.
Yep.
You know? They ain't forgot about that. So they ain't gonna when it's that time, they just waiting for the right time. Just like the dude in Iran, fuck is his name?
Ahmadinejad.
Ahmadinejad.
Well, there's a new dude now, but he was an old one. But
yeah.
Okay.
But well, like him and the rest of the Iranian people, how they just waiting. They just waiting. They can't. They salivating at getting you damn like they want the so-called Jews' ass, and Russia wants America's ass.
That's right.
You know.
That's right.
All right. So.
So go ahead.
Okay. So it says their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. The eye shall not spare children.
Right. So that bow's talking about those missiles, you know, those arrows and all that. They're gonna get busy on this place. Trust and believe what the scriptures are saying. All right. So now the last scripture we're gonna. Oh yeah.
Want me to read the next verse?
Yeah. Go ahead. It
says, "In Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency, shall be as when the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah."
That's right. So it's gonna be totally wiped out. If you go over there to the land where Sodom and Gomorrah is, which is down there in the south, I believe it's by the Dead Sea. When you go down there, you know there's no traces of Sodom, Gomorrah, Zeboim, Admah, or Zoar.
Yeah.
None of those cities that were a bunch of faggots and lesbians. There's no sign and trace of any of them. Why? Because the Lord completely destroyed them. So this place here is going to be the same way. Except for this place here is so huge. America's so huge. Babylon the Great is so huge that it's going to burn for a long period of time before the flames actually go out. And then it's going to be inhabited by wild creatures. You know, and that's going to be the judgment for this place. It's going to be left as a memorial to what happens when you live a wicked life. You know, when you're wicked, like they are in this country. All right, now let's go to Revelation 20, verses 7 to 10. You know, because Russia plays a major part in the end of Esau's age. It plays a major part in the destruction of this kingdom. Go ahead, brother.
Revelation chapter 20, verse 7. And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea.
Right, and this began when? From way back in the 13 and 1400s, when this devil first started getting his grip back on the world through what was known as a Renaissance period. You know, and they got their foothold and they lied to the world. They deceived the whole world, and from that point on, they've been gathering all this stuff together to bring what? Basically, their end, their downfall. All right, go ahead.
That's right. It says, and they went up on the breadth of the earth and compassed the camp of the saints. About
which is the land of Israel. Not that the saints are living there, but that's our camp. That's our land. Go ahead.
In the beloved city.
Which is what? The land of Israel. Go ahead.
Out of Salaki, it says, and fire came down from the Most High out of heaven and devoured them.
Right, that's a nuclear fire, because not only are the missiles going to hit, Yahushua is coming back, the lasers from the chariots, and there's going to be actual fire that's going to be raining down from the skies too, man. Just like it rained during the time of Sodom and Gomorrah. It's going to be the same. All that stuff is going to be coming simultaneously. And on top of that, there's already going to be fires here set on the earth. That's why Yahushua said, I am come to send fire upon the earth. And what will I if it be already kindled? So what is he going to do? He's going to bring more fire.
More fire. More fire.
Okay.
And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone.
Right, because you devils here that are left here in the soils of America, you're going to be destroyed in this lake of fire and brimstone, which is the nuclear missiles. Okay?
And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are.
That's all of you, the Roman Catholic Church, the UN, certain NATO nations that happen to be here at that time. You know, all of you going to be destroyed and burnt up here in this place called America, Babylon the Great.
Yeah, and if I may add too, it says lake of fire because that's what it's going to look like from up in the heavens. You look down on the map, down where America, which is called America today, it's going to be on fire because it's targets all over America. All kind of missiles are going to be lighting America up.
That's right.
Which not the whole earth is going to be destroyed, but America is going to be destroyed. Israel is going to be destroyed. Certain other places are, but then you got certain places where the Most High is not going to touch. All right.
That's right. So finish that verse off.
Yep. It says, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever.
Right, because they're going to be put in slavery afterwards. But also these things are going to be written in the book. Just like when you read the scriptures, this is engraved forever. When you read about these different stories, about these different calamities or different good deeds that were done, or Yahushua being on the scene, this stuff is engraved forever in the book. We still reading it 2,000 years later, like it just happened yesterday.
Yeah.
So their torment is going to be written in here. Just like the Sodom and Gomorrah, their torment is written in the book. And it's engraved forever. So 1,000 generations in the future, you're going to be able to go to Genesis, the 19th chapter, and read it to your sons or your grandchildren and say, look, this was Sodom and Gomorrah. This is what happened to them. So that horror, that terror that happened to them is going to be written in this book forever. You know? All right, so with that, that concludes part 2, Russia the Bear. So Lord's will, we'll come back and do other parts for this lesson. Shalom.
Shalom.